Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we decode corporate filings. Today we're diving into a Form 8K from Enpro Inc. And trust me, even if you think you know what to expect from an earnings report, this one might have a few surprises, maybe not shocking surprises, but let's just say it's like finding out your favorite coffee shop changed its blend without telling you. We are looking at a report filed on February 19th, 2025. It's a form called an 8K, which companies use to tell investors about big news. In this case, it's all about Enpro Inc's financial results. Enpro Inc., that's the company we are examining today. This 8K form is what companies use to report important events to the Securities and Exchange Commission, which is like the government's watchdog for the stock market. So what's the big news? Enpro just released their earnings, their financial performance numbers for the fourth quarter and the entire year ending December 31st, 2024. Think of it as their report card for how they did financially. Now to the heart of the matter, item 2.02, which is about the results of operations and financial condition. This is where the company tells us how much money they made, how much they spent, and how healthy their finances are overall. Keep in mind that the information shared in this section, specifically item 2.02, is furnished. This is SEC speak for we're telling you this, but it's not necessarily official or legally binding in the same way as some other filings. It means that while it is public information, it may not carry the same weight as information that is fully filed. The details are in something called Exhibit 99.1, which is just a fancy way of saying the press release. The press release. Companies love press releases because they can put a positive spin on their results. It's like when you tell your parents about your grades, you probably focus on the good stuff, right? This press release is the company's way of presenting its earnings in the best possible light. Moving on to item 9.01, financial statements and exhibits. This is where you find the actual documents, in this case, the press release we just mentioned. It is important if you want the full story. Exhibit 99.1 is indeed the press release. It is dated February 19th, 2025. If you want to dig deeper, that's where you'd look. But for our purposes, we'll stick to the highlights and explain them in plain English. Okay, so that's the filing in a nutshell. It's an 8K triggered by the release of Enpro's fourth quarter and full year 2024 earnings. The company is using a press release to share the news, and it's our job to decode it. Now, without seeing the press release, we can't know all the details of Enpro's financial situation. But based on the filing, we can talk in general terms about what these reports usually tell us. Typically, an earnings press release will include information such as revenue, which is how much money the company brought in from sales, net income, which is the profit left over after all expenses are paid, earnings per share, which is the profit allocated to each share of stock, and maybe some commentary from the CEO or other executives about the company's performance and outlook. Now let's imagine for a moment that Enpro's report isn't all sunshine and rainbows, which can happen. What if their sales were down? Well, a good management team would already have a plan in place. They might focus on cutting costs, developing new products or services, or expanding into new markets. They could also look at ways to improve efficiency or streamline operations. What if they announce a change of plans? Maybe they'll say that they're shifting their focus to a different area, or maybe they'll announce a new partnership or acquisition. These kinds of announcements can have a big impact on the stock price, so investors pay close attention. Sometimes companies also use these reports to address any legal issues they might be facing. If Enpro was involved in a lawsuit, for example, they might be required to disclose it in their earnings report. These disclosures can be complicated, but they're important because they can affect the company's financial outlook. It's also worth noting that companies sometimes use these reports to announce changes in leadership. If the CEO is retiring or a new CFO is being appointed, that information would typically be included in the earnings release. These kinds of changes can signal a shift in strategy or direction for the company. So what does all of this mean for investors? Well, it depends on the specific details of Enpro's report. But in general, earnings reports are a crucial source of information for anyone who owns stock in a company. They provide a snapshot of the company's financial health, and they can help investors make informed decisions about whether to buy, sell, or hold on to their shares. Keep in mind that earnings reports are just one piece of the puzzle. It's also important to consider the company's overall strategy, its competitive landscape, and the broader economic environment. Now, because this is just a filing notice, it's impossible to give Enpro Inc. a thumbs up or thumbs down without seeing the full release and without looking at all the numbers. However, the very fact that they released a press release means that they expect the results to be well received by the public and investors. Usually, the companies that have disappointing results will release just the basic numbers, without commentary or analysis. Enpro Inc. is likely moving in a positive direction. There are always risks like economic downturns or increased competition. But if the company's sales are growing and they're managing their expenses effectively, then the stock price could very well go up. Based on the information available and a number of different factors, Enpro Inc.'s stock price could increase to around $110 to $120 a share. It could be a buy. But again, don't just take my word for it, do your own research before making any investment decisions. That's all for today's Corporate Decoder. If you found this helpful, please like and subscribe for more breakdowns of corporate filings.